Why was Patrice Lumumba, the former Congolese prime minister, terminated? Why were Belgian authorities and the CIA involved in his murder? Furthermore, what about Muammar Gaddafi, the president of Libya, and Thomas Sankara, the revolutionary leader and president of Burkina Faso? Although the list is endless, we noticed a trend in the killings of these African leaders. They were all dangers to the West. To put it another way, they opposed Western plunder and control in Africa, and grew to such a size that firing them was the only viable solution. At that point, it becomes clear why the majority of African leaders have up until now kept mute and obedient to the West. Today, however, things are different, and African governments are opposing Western power and ejecting and expelling them from the continent. Several leaders, including President Ibrahim Traoré, have pledged to do what cost previous presidents their lives. The West is not keeping quiet and is employing devious and clandestine means to plot against them. Which African politicians are on the assassination list? And what are the Western conspiracies? In this video, let's learn about that. Captain Ibrahim Traoré is at the top of the West's list of targets. Ibrahim Traoré was born in Kira, Bondakui, Muhan Province, in 1988. He attended a secondary school in Bobo-Dioulasso after completing his elementary education in Bandakui. He studied geology at the University of Ouagadougou, actively participating in student societies, and was well known for his modest yet exceptionally gifted personality. After graduating with honors, Traoré joined the army of Burkina Faso in 2009 and was stationed in Kaya after completing military training in Morocco. Traoré joined the UN peacekeeping mission MINUSMA in Mali in 2014 after rising to the rank of lieutenant, exhibiting bravery in the face of 2018 insurgent attacks. He participated in actions against the jihadist insurgency, such as the Atapuanu offensive in 2019, after returning to Burkina Faso in 2018. After being elevated to captain in 2020, Traoré started speaking up for disgruntled soldiers in the north who were angry about the lack of assistance from the administration. Traoré supported the patriotic movement for the protection and restoration of the military junta, which was a major factor in the January 2022 coup d'état in Burkina Faso. Traoré and other officers tried to refocus junta leader Damiba after becoming dissatisfied with his handling of the jihadist insurgency, but ultimately decided to topple him. In October 2022, Traoré proclaimed himself interim president and head of the junta, promising to hold democratic elections in July 2024. Traoré kept a formal manner while serving as president, carefully managing his communications to convey authority. In February 2023, he declared his desire for varied foreign ties and removed French forces. In addition to urging Guinea to join a federation with Mali, Traoré's administration aimed to strengthen its relations with Russia and Turkey. He announced a mass mobilization against rebel forces in April. Traoré questioned the 2024 Democratic Restoration proposal, claiming that increased security was necessary for elections. The West launched a covert coup against Ibrahim Traoré because they knew he had no desire to run for office, which would have meant retaining power and undermining Western domination. Disgruntled military groups thus made an abortive effort to topple Traoré in September 2023. Traoré, who was suspected of having connections to the Russian mercenary group Wagner Group, denied cooperation and voiced pro-Russian views. Traoré declared that the Russian embassy in Burkina Faso would reopen after the 2023 Russia-Africa summit. In spite of the accusations, the Traoré government had not asked Wagner for help as of May 2023 and was willing to use its own troops to combat extremists. Since September 30, 2022, he has been the nation's acting leader, taking over Paul-Henri Sandaogo's interim president. At this age, Traoré is unique in that he is the world's youngest sitting president. Throughout his term, he has given priority to projects that will benefit his country rather than solely aligning with Western interests. Traoré's government drove out French troops fighting a local rebellion in Burkina Faso in February 2023. Following this decision, a declaration was made indicating a readiness to look into other collaborations, putting a lot of emphasis on expanding Burkina Faso's international connections and encouraging win-win partnerships. Traoré's administration then decided to form a federation with Mali and Niger. At the moment, the military is in charge of all three countries. Furthermore, the union between Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso is the biggest nation under military rule. Following the Russia-Africa meeting on July 29, 2023, Traoré declared that his people supported Russia and that the Russian embassy, which had been closed since 1992, would reopen, asserting that Africa can thrive on its own by using its wealth of natural resources to create a more resilient continent. Traoré calls on African leaders to stop being influenced by imperialists. Traoré has had several failed coup attempts since taking power. There is ongoing speculation that Western influences may have influenced some of these endeavors. Considering Traoré's dedication to creating an Africa that is less dependent on outside help. Once more, intelligence and security agencies were instrumental in the successful thwart of a coup attempt against the military government in Burkina Faso. The military officials said that a group of army officers and others had plotted to take over, which may have led to anarchy. Additionally, it was shown that these forces had foreign support, revealing the failed Western schemes. Based on reliable claims of an officer-led plot against state security, the military prosecutor verified the arrest of 4 people, 2 of whom are still at large. This incident came after 3 troops, commanded by Captain Ibrahim Traoré, were arrested on suspicion of plotting against the military administration in power. Even after the failed coup was announced, Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso, seemed to remain peaceful in spite of these events. Took to the streets in response to reports of a possible mutiny. It made it very evident that there was no chance of a successful assassination or coup attempt against Ibrahim Traoré. Ibrahim Traoré is not only extremely hard to replace, but because of his close relationship with Putin, he also becomes a powerful leader that no one would dare challenge. The West will have to deal with Russia's repercussions if it attempts Ibrahim Traoré's murder, which is something it would never want. Ghanaian President Nana Addo is ranked number 2 on the hit list. He became president of Ghana in 2017 at the age of 79. Akufo-Addo was born on March 29, 1944, and has a long political career. He ran for president in 2008 and 2012 under the New Patriotic Party. Despite losing those elections, he managed to win in 2016 and 2020. Both times defeating the incumbent with success. His government faced difficulties in the latter years of his term, which were characterized by serious financial issues and a reduction in press freedom, even though it had initially won support for advancing a Ghana beyond aid agenda. But all he did was make sure that Western media that disseminated anti-American propaganda was suppressed. Akufo-Addo has had a very moderate stand on LGBT rights. He made the suggestion in November 2017 that Ghana may eventually legalize homosexuality, citing similarities to the development of LGBT rights in the UK. But he made it clear that it was not on the government's present agenda. He reaffirmed in August 2018 that he would not allow same-sex marriage or the decriminalization of homosexuality while in office. The reason for this is that his nation and Africa as a whole refuse to embrace the moral imperialism that the West want to see adopted by the rest of the world. He has pushed for a more powerful Africa that is independent of the West. Furthermore, he forced the West to acknowledge its violent past and continuously demanded restitution. In order to make sure that such dubious institutions never mistreat his nation, he has also denounced the United Nations function as a lapdog of solely the West. He is viewed as a danger to the West and someone who ought to be eradicated because of his audacious speech. Kenyan President William Ruto is ranked third on the hit list. William Ruto was born on December 21, 1966. On September 13, 2022, Ruto took office as Kenya's fifth president. From 2013 to 2022, he was Kenya's first elected deputy president prior to becoming president. In the past, the president appointed people to this role who were known as vice presidents. As the Minister of Higher Education, the Minister of Agriculture, and the Minister of Home Affairs, Ruto has held 3 cabinet positions during his political career. From 1997 until 2007, Ruto served as a Member of Parliament for the Kanu. Then from 2000 to the present, he represented the Eldoret North constituency for the ODM party. He held the position of Minister for Home Affairs from August to December 2002 under Daniel Arap Moi. Ruto served as Minister of Higher Education from April to October 2010 and Minister of Agriculture from 2008 to 2010 during the Mwai Kibaki administration. He focused on gaining power and forming coalitions for his political future over this entire period. Even though he first ran for president in the 2007 election, losing the ODM party primaries to Raila Odinga. Later on, he backed Odinga's candidacy. Ruto dropped out of the 2013 election as president in favor of Uhuru Kenyatta, who was nominated for the deputy presidency and won the election. In the 2017 Kenyan general election, he was re-elected as the Jubilee Party's deputy president. Kenyatta backed Raila Odinga, Ruto's opponent in the 2022 election, when he stood for president under the United Democratic Alliance despite a fight. Odinga's supporters accused the election of being rigged, although that was not confirmed by international observers. The Western requirement that all 54 African leaders attend the Russia-Africa meeting was deemed humiliating and ineffectual by President Ruto. He suggested that Africa be represented by special envoys who interact with Western leaders in a more practical way, encouraging deep conversations that go beyond simple photo ops. In order for Africa's voice to be heard and recognized internationally, Ruto emphasized the significance of positive communication and a more equal platform. He maintained that it is not logical to hold meetings between Africa and nations such as the US, Europe, India, Turkey, Japan, and Russia in the same way. For all 54 African presidents to appear before a single person from somewhere else. In addition, he has voiced concerns about Western meddling in African issues and acted in ways that support this viewpoint. Especially in international conferences, Ruto has publicly denounced what he sees as Western meddling in African issues. Ruto has consistently emphasized that Africa must claim its independence and fight against Western countries' hegemony. Ruto's political program is characterized by a patriotic position that lessens dependency on outside aid and is in line with anti-Western sentiment that aims to see African countries stand alone without heavily depending on outside help. Additionally, Ruto has been outspoken in his opposition to the establishment of LGBT rights in Kenya and other African nations. He continuously claims that his nation does not prioritize this issue, supporting a more traditional and conservative position that opposes the influence of Western culture on social issues. Add your voice to the total liberation of Africa by leaving a comment in the comments section below. Do not forget to like and subscribe for more informative videos like this one. Let's proceed. Rwandan President Paul Kagame is ranked 4th on the hit list. Perhaps one of the most influential presidents in Africa, if not the entire world, is Paul Kagame. Paul Kagame, who was born on October 23, 1957, has served as Rwanda's 4th president since 2000. He led the Rwandan Patriotic Front, a rebel military organization that entered Rwanda in 1990 prior to becoming president. The Rwandan genocide was eventually stopped by the RPF, which was instrumental in the country's civil war. While serving as President Patrice Lumumba's deputy president and Minister of Defense, Kagame took on the position of de facto leader of Rwanda between 1994 until 2000, when the vice presidential post was eliminated. Kagame was born into a southern Rwandan Tutsi household, and at the age of 2, his family escaped to Uganda. During the Rwandan Revolution, which brought an end to years of Tutsi political domination, he was raised there. Kagame was with Yoweri Museveni's rebel army in the 1980s and rose to the rank of senior Ugandan army officer following Museveni's ascent to the presidency of Uganda due to a string of military triumphs. Later, on the second day of the 1990 invasion, Kagame joined the RPF and took over as leader following the passing of Fred Ruigema. The RPF gained substantial territory in Rwanda by 1993, which paved the way for a negotiated ceasefire. An estimated 500,000 people were massacred by Hutu extremists during the genocide that was started by the killing of Rwandan President Juvenal Habyarimana. Approximately 800,000 moderate Hutus and Tutsis. Kagame brought the civil conflict back to life and brought it to a military conclusion. Kagame was in charge of the National Army during his time as vice president, and he was instrumental in keeping the government in power as reconstruction works got underway. After a falling out with the RPF, Patrice Lumumba resigned in 2000, and Kagame took over as president. Afterwards, Bizimungu was imprisoned on charges of instigating ethnic violence and corruption, which human rights organizations believed were politically motivated. Human rights organizations accuse Kagame of political repression, and the West describes his government as dictatorial. The reason for this is that he maintains Western authority rather than following its dictates. The regime is viewed differently by foreign observers, and although Kagame has placed a high priority on national development, critics draw attention to issues with political freedom. Kagame, who was criticized for removing term limits, took aim at Western bloggers and journalists who were seen as haughty for questioning their patronizing views. Africa's main problem, according to Kagame's 2009 inaugural address, is poverty and reliance brought on by underdevelopment. He bemoaned the use of foreign aid as political leverage in Africa by the international community and emphasized the need to disregard adventurers who lack credibility and ties to the majority of the population. Throughout his political career, he has made statements and done things that are perceived as being in opposition to Western dominance. Kagame has been vocal in his criticism of what he sees as Western countries meddling in African affairs. "We are not people to be denigrated," he declared firmly, and he questioned the West. "What about those in your country who committed crimes in my country? Africa does not require adult supervision," he frequently says, and Africa and Rwanda should determine their own future. He is therefore a menace to Western domination, since he is among the most potent African leaders capable of opposing the West. Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni is ranked 5th on the West's hit list. Born on September 15, 1944, Yoweri Museveni is a well-known figure in Ugandan politics, military affairs, and revolutionary history. Even though his administration has been often described as dictatorial, it has held significant power since taking office in 1986. He has consistently declared that China's diplomacy is superior to the West's and criticized the West for its unfair treatment of people. The West has been scheming against him for years because of this, which makes him someone they should be afraid of. Following his loss in the 1980 election, Museveni's political career took a sharp turn, leading to the Ugandan Bush War and the eventual overthrow of Milton Obote. Museveni's rule is classified by academics as either illiberal democracy or competitive authoritarianism. However, the fact that he is uncontrollable frustrates these researchers, the majority of whom are Westerners. The government controls the media, and Ugandan elections since 1986 have frequently been condemned for being opaque and unfree. Significant constitutional modifications, engagement in regional crises like the First Congo War and Rwandan Civil War, the Lord's Resistance Army insurgency in northern Uganda, and an increase in anti-LGBT legislation have all occurred during the president's term, encompassing the elimination of age and presidential term restrictions in 2005 and 2017, respectively. On January 16, 2021, Museveni won 58.6% of the vote to secure a sixth term in the most recent chapter of his leadership, despite accusations of irregularities like as ballot box stuffing, exaggerated voter turnouts, and violations of human rights. It's interesting to note that the West has propagated these accusations to paint him as a despot. He signed a contentious bill that makes same-sex behavior illegal and might result in the death penalty for convictions of severe homosexuality. Western nations and local and international human rights organizations denounced this anti-LGBTQ law. However, one thing needs to be understood. What is morally right and wrong in Africa will not be decided by the West. The West has employed every strategy it has to keep him under control. For example, the World Bank, a critical source of budget support for Uganda, suspended funds in August, alleging a divergence with its ideals. Recently, Joe Biden said that Uganda will be ejected from the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act because its president is not willing to be a Western puppet. Museveni has strong anti-colonial attitude and came to power following a protracted guerrilla battle. The history of European colonization in Africa, which has had a long-lasting effect on the continent, is the source of this sentiment. It is possible to read Museveni's opposition to what he perceives as outside interference as a reaction to the historical exploitation and manipulation by Western powers. Additionally, he supported the concepts of self-determination and national sovereignty. He frequently frames his anti-Western views as defending Uganda's independence and resisting what he sees as Western attempts to control the nation's internal affairs. However, this begs the question of how the West is threatened by defending one's sovereignty. Museveni has, at times, voiced a desire for economic independence from Western institutions. His response to the World Bank's decision to halt assistance because of the anti-LGBTQ law emphasized this. Museveni is determined to break free from what he sees as the economic ties connected to Western aid, as seen by his declaration that Uganda would look into alternate financing sources and lessen its reliance on foreign organizations. Mali President Colonel Assimi Goïta is number 6 on the West's target list. Since May 28, 2021, Colonel Assimi Goïta, who was born in the year 1980, has been acting as Mali's interim president. He was the leader of the National Committee for the Salvation of the People in the beginning. Former President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta was overthrown by this military unit in the 2020 Malian coup d'état. Following the Malian coup d'état in 2021, Goïta took over as leader from Bandeo and was formally proclaimed Mali's provisional president. He became as one of the most influential African leaders after that day. As a result, there was a desire in the West to replace him. During the Eid al-Adha celebrations at the Grand Mosque in Bamako on July 20, 2021, Goïta was attacked by a knife man during prayers. After failing to injure the president, the attacker was quickly taken into custody. A total of 2 people were arrested, one of whom was later identified as a Special Forces soldier, after first being thought to be the attacker's accomplice. The interim president of Mali, Colonel Assimi Goïta, has expressed opinions and conducted actions that can be viewed as detrimental to Western interests. He has publicly insulted the West, centralized authority, and expelled French troops. He started the operation to put a stop to everything that provided the West with political clout in Mali. Therefore, he prohibited NGOs, as most of them were French and Western. In an apparent effort to regulate the dissemination of misinformation, he also repressed Western media in the nation, such as France 24 and Radio France International. In addition, Colonel Goïta's administration eliminated French as the official language of Mali and outlawed French-funded assistance organizations. Indeed, he sends a clear statement that he is more powerful than the West believes by refusing to accept charity. What are your thoughts about these leaders? Can the West terminate all these influential African leaders and get away with it? Or the days of West power are over? Is it still possible today for the West to engage in any of these conspiracies? Since these influential African leaders are aware that the West is scheming against them, tell us what you think they should do. Tell us what you think in the comments section below. We explore the rich history, culture, and the ongoing struggle for sovereignty in Africa. Join us in this important conversation by subscribing to our channel. By subscribing, you're not just staying informed, you're becoming part of a movement dedicated to reclaiming Africa's rightful place on the global stage. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Let's work together to spread knowledge and inspire change. Thanks for watching.